Hey guys, I hope you are all off to a great start to your week. We're about midweek now, so by now you guys should have taken on at least the foot in the door and the door in the face technique regarding any number of different things, but primarily they're used for business purposes or business like transactions, though they can certainly be used for many other things. For our purposes, we'll look at group standards as they apply to business purposes this way. So, the foot in the door technique winds up being almost quite literally if you allow someone a foot in your door of your house or a foot up on you in any type of particular sale, you are much, much, much more likely to I guess best way of putting it, to allow them to continue to ask more and more of you. So if you let your friend borrow $1 every day and then all of a sudden they need to borrow $20 to put gas in their car, you're much more likely to pony up the $20 to put gas in their car. If your parents ask for small things here and there and then they ask you to maybe paint the fence outside, you're much more likely to say yes. If your friends ask you to go out once in a while and all of a sudden they ask you to pony up money to go to a much larger venue, like going to a concert or something that's going to cost you much more money than what you typically do with your friends, you're more likely to say yes. Whereas the opposite of that winds up being the door in the face technique. The door in the face technique winds up being someone asking for something absolutely so outlandish that they all but know you're going to say no or veto that particular choice on. So, a good example would be in regards to, say, car sales. If they start off with this asking price that is absolutely outlandish, and in going back and forth with the car salesman or saleswoman, back and forth until you can get them to knock off a couple $1,000s off the price tag of the car, at that point, you feel like you've done a pretty darn good job. Where they've started off with such an amazingly outlandish request and then back down to a much more plausible and feasible request. It might work in your favor to say, ask your parents for $100 off the bat, and of course your parents will most likely say no. So then you were saying, well, if I can't have $100, can I have $5 to go out to get some ice cream with my friends? Something along those lines. With those two particular kinds of techniques, I wanted to get that point across, the difference between the two. The other item that I've asked you guys to take a look at is looking at both the central and peripheral routes to persuasion. The peripheral route to persuasion is some way that a marketing company, whatever the company winds up being, gets their product across to you not by actually using the product itself or very loosely using the product itself, but using something, someone, whether it's an actor, actress, rock star, animal, something that's going to wind up pulling at your heartstrings to get that particular product across to you. The videos from different Super Bowls as well as other TV commercials that I've sampled to show you guys through your Google Docs winds up getting that point across very well. I think many of you remember Apple's incredibly successful peripheral campaign come time for Christmas, when they created the quote-unquote Nana video showing you what the Apple iPad can do, but more importantly, they used it peripherally in pulling at your heartstrings and showing you that there are emotions and values attached to their particular product. Google did something very, very similar with the memory loss and dementia slash Alzheimer's commercial that they created with Google Remind, different types of items like that. The Chevy commercial regarding with unfortunately having to put the dog down, and it's a very, very sad commercial, but at the end they wind up showing you that, hey, we have a new puppy and this will be our replacement and life is good again, and it is because of our Chevy particular product that we were able to do all of these particular things. The peripheral campaign works particularly well with younger audiences. So whether they have Taylor Swift doing Apple Music while she's falling on her face, doing the exercise on the running machine, or if it winds up being other famous individuals marketing their particular products. Whether they use Hollywood actors or actresses to get across the new Coca-Cola beverage that's supposed to give you energy, and they choose famous actors and movie directors to get that particular product across. They don't really say anything about the product other than what the product is. They don't tell you what it is that it's going to do. They don't tell you what it is that's coming to be. All it winds up being is a very, very clever ad placement on what would otherwise be a particularly novel or emotional kind of commercial. On the opposite side of things, you have the central route to persuasion. The central route to persuasion winds up being something that gets the product across in a more truthful fashion. Car commercials can do it all the time. They'll talk about all the safety features that come along with their new vehicle, whether it winds up being drive assist or automatic braking before you can even respond, or anti-lock brakes, or the way that it is very compliant to help and keep your family and your children's safety needs in place with a goodly amount of airbags and safety features, whether they talk about how conveniently and easily certain products are used. So if you were to sit there and say something more simply, instead of just car commercials, if you were to say something along the lines of, say, toothpaste or a toothbrush, that they say that 9 out of 10 doctors recommend that you use our particular product because it helps to break down plaque more easily, or because it helps to take care of the health of your mouth more easily. When they talk about mental illness medication and they talk about the truth behind the medication, and then it has very real side effects that people need to be knowledgeable of and knowing about, and this is what could possibly happen if you take this. But we have gone through the FDA, we have gone through numerous different loops to get our particular product legally into your hands by a script from your doctor. Then they are using the central means of persuasion. It is all about telling the truth. It is all about telling the details of what it is that the case winds up being. It is all about how that particular product functions and how it is broken down most simply, while going right to the central cause of what that particular product winds up being. The last very large concept that I wanted to get across to you guys this week are what are called social traps as they apply to social psychology. Social traps are downright dangerous in regards to numerous different things. If we were to talk about what's going on right now in present day America, and even in our local community here, one of the largest social traps that winds up coming to be is the individuals hoarding supplies for their homes. At its very core, most simple core, a social trap is when an individual takes immediate personal gains, but unfortunately winds up hurting out the whole down the road. So, for example, individuals hoarding and stockpiling, whether it winds up being bathroom supplies like toilet paper or soap or antibacterial soap or Germ-X, or you take your pick. The grocery stores in our local communities were absolutely stripped bare, that individuals could not get the most basic of common needs because individuals had gone out and gotten what they thought that their immediate needs were. And because of that, that leaves the whole of society, whether it's the entire community, the entire state, the entire country, as things go by, it leaves them at a loss. Because of these individual needs, the individuals will wind up satiating their particular desire, which is one part of the relationship. Unfortunately, that leaves the others that are involved, the nation, the state, the local community, your local family, whatever the case winds up being, at a loss. It could be downright deadly and dangerous in certain particular scenarios. So individuals that wind up, say, hoarding the PPE material that physicians and doctors and people working in hospitals and medical facilities cannot get the particular products that they need as the first line of defense, individuals themselves wind up taking those particular items, whether they are rubber gloves or they wind up being their masks or face shields or any of the different paper products and cleansing agents that doctors and hospitals need. And with that being said, the individual at home satiates their needs, but doesn't wind up helping to take care of the greater goods needs. One of the best ways, besides what's going on with what's in our local and state and country levels, wind up being social traps, such as individuals seeking out, um, say, for example, we live in a farming based community. If my particular farm has its needs met by getting excess, say, fertilization or whatever else that the farm or farmers wind up needing, but if it winds up retracting from what other farmers or individuals in the particular local and state run facilities, then it winds up being social traps. A social trap is individual in nature and therefore winds up starting off with the individual, but it winds up affecting the group as a whole much more heavily. And sometimes, as we were talking about, with the necessities in local hospitals and medical facilities, that they cannot get what they need. And therefore, you're talking about sometimes there wind up being legal consequences and lethal consequences as well. So I wanted to touch on those three particular items as I've sent it out to you guys through your Google Docs. I hope that this particular lecture and discussion has helped you understand these particular concepts a little bit better besides just the YouTube videos. I hope once again this message has found you and your families as safe and healthy, and I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Be well, be safe, and take care of one another.